All right, ladies and gentlemen, got a bit of a, I think it's an exciting video. At least I'm excited to bring it to you, though some people might find it to be a little bit on the excessive side. I'm happy with what has happened, and hopefully you will share my excitement. So, you know, got a couple of exciting vehicles with the 458 and the GT, but when I had to like drive around and do day-to-day tasks, I would generally end up hopping in the C63S AMG, and even though it's a great car, it's got that luxury combined with sport, but from driving the other cars and driving a lot of supercars and whatnot, I want like more aggressive, I want like stiffer suspension, I want it to be quicker, I want it to be louder, and when I don't get that, as good of a car as the AMG is, it's fast. And as fun as that is to drive, it can be more exciting than that. And I'm spoiled by the other two cars. But what I'm trying to get at is I might not have had the AMG for a super long time, but I might have gone and done a thing. It may come as a surprise to some people, given that the 600 LT is coming down the pike to replace the 458s. And that is that I have swapped my daily driver for something a bit more exciting, and having had it now for a few weeks, I'm very happy with it. Some of you might have heard already, because I've talked about it on my live streams and whatnot, but for those of you who don't watch that, allow me to bring you to the surprise reveal. Don't judge me too hard. Present to you the new 911 GT3 RS. It is a 991 Mark 1 generation. It's not the new Mark II. I'll go into some details and explanation as to why I went with this as opposed to the new one. But for now, why don't we actually get it outside into the light? We'll walk around, I'll show it to you, and we'll go into some more detail around it. But can I just say from the get-go, this thing is so great. It is so exciting now, anytime I have to go anywhere. Yes, might not be the most practical daily driver, but it is a fun daily driver. It is so fun. So much, like the AMG is great. It has its benefits. This is so fun. All right, let's take it out and I'll tell you more about it. Probably didn't expect it, given that this was one of the cars that I had discussed along with the 600 LT as something to come in to replace the 458. So all of a sudden to have it as a daily driver, what's up with that? So on one hand, I know this sort of violates the rule of what I was looking for in future cars as a limited run model that I order from the factory and get to spec and document the whole process, but let me explain why that is. I looked into the possibility of ordering the new 991 Mark II GT3 RS that was just unveiled, the one that you can get the Visoc package on, the magnesium wheels. Problem is, A, you have to pay over MSRP for that. There was no way I could get it at MSRP. I'm not in with Porsche. This is the first Porsche I've had, so there's no chance of doing that. Furthermore, even if I was willing to pay over MSRP for it, they ran out of materials for Visoc and magnesium wheels on any newly spec'd cars. So even if I was to order it from the factory over MSRP, I wouldn't have been able to get the spec that I wanted. And so for that reason, I was like, well, if that's the case, if I want to get the exact thing I want, I'm gonna have to get it used anyway, in which case, why don't I go slightly cheaper and get one of the 991 Mark 1s? So, thus, I began to look at them, and this is kind of the exact spec that I liked. It was like, yeah, Miami blue would be cool, but also I like the idea of having some variety. I decided variety would be better than just matching the cars at the same color. So here we have a Lava Orange 2016 GT3 RS 991 Mark 1, and it is so fun. So the reason why I thought I could daily this is because it is a 911. 911s are very daily drivable cars. Granted, this is a less practical one, but still, like when I got in and test drove it before getting it, it is amazing like how small the cabin feels around you. It almost feels like I'm in the old Fiat 500 that I had. It's bigger than the Fiat 500, obviously, but the driving position is amazing because of the really pronounced wheel arches on either side here. It's just very easy to gauge the width of the vehicle, and I feel super comfortable driving it, even up very narrow streets to my house. It's not an issue, whereas it would even feel more unwieldy in the C63, which is more of a traditionally daily drivable car. So I was like, wow, I'm actually more comfortable space-wise in this as opposed to the car I already have, which is more known for being daily drivable. On the other hand, I know that when it comes to daily driving, more people would go for a Turbo S. It's more compliant, softer suspension, you'd have more of the comfort seats than the buckets, but I just knew that at basically the exact same price point, if I bought a Turbo S, I'd be like, but I could have gotten a GT3 RS, and I think I would just always have that slight bit of regret, knowing how much more exciting this is than a Turbo S, which Turbo S is a great car, but this is just, when you get this thing over 8,000 revs, it sounds so amazing. And just to have that in the car that I would take on a daily basis, to have that option, all that power, it's just, it's so good. It's so good. Anyway, more details about this specific car. 2016, had 1,700 miles on it when I got it, so it's like pretty much brand new. Lava orange paint, graphite wheels. That's the only thing that I might change, that I might get those to be fully black, because I do prefer that look, but this had everything else perfect. Also, had a full clear bra already installed on it, so that was one less thing that I had to worry about. There are a couple edges here and there where the installers kind of, it's peeling up just a little bit, but not enough for me to actually want to get it redone unless something more major starts peeling somewhere. But I was like, I can just take it. It's almost better because these have like a 1,000-mile break-in period on them anyway, and that would have been so tough trying to abide by the 1,000-mile don't go over, I think it's either 4,000 or 5,000 revs on it. This thing wants to rev so high, and until you get it really high, you don't get that amazing naturally aspirated sound. So it's almost better. I could just rev it right off the get-go, and it had the clear bra, so it was ready to go on a canyon drive like right off the bat. Brilliant. Has the carbon ceramics on it, which you can tell by the yellow brake calipers. For Porsche, you can't choose brake caliper colors. It's red for the standard, yellow for the carbon ceramics, and just look at the wing. Just, you know, if you ever get somewhere, you have some food, but you're like, oh shoot, there are no picnic tables around. You can just lay out your meal here, and what better table in the world could there possibly be than the wing on one of these?
Alex, I want you to freeze frame this and then make a Last Supper remake where it's Jordan copy pasted next to him and he's Jesus in the middle. You don't actually have to do it, but
this is my favorite thing on the car. Yeah, it might have stiffer suspension. Yeah, bucket seats might not be as comfortable for daily driving, but you get this. This is, I just love looking at it. It's a bigger spoiler than any other vehicle I've got. And once the 600 LT does come in, we will have massive wings on every car. None being as massive as this, but the 600 LT is gonna have a wing. The GT has the wing. This has the wing. We are just triple wings next to each other. I feel like we'll be flying, actually. Once all three are lined up, everything is just gonna fly in the air. So one of the things that I was a little bit concerned about in having this as a daily is scraping hazard. And it's actually kind of genius what Porsche did with the front splitter on these things, because this is actually just, it's like a $200 replaceable piece of plastic. Look, you can see the flex when I push on it, and so it doesn't really even matter if you scrape the thing, whereas like on the GT, this is a very nice piece of carbon fiber. If you scrape it, you're going to be extremely sad. On this, which is now actually the lowest of all my cars, yet I'm daily driving it, this thing, which I have actually scraped on numerous occasions, not in driveways, but just on dips in the road. It was like on a canyon drive that I did recently on it. There were just a few bad little places that I couldn't brake enough, and so just it hit, but it hit pretty lightly, but still, it's got some scrapes across it now, and I don't mind it. because if I need to, I can just replace this thing and it's not damaging any of the actual bodywork of the car. I guess you can even just unscrew a couple screws, you pop the thing out, swap a new one on, and all of a sudden you're good to go. So it's like, even if you do scrape, it's not a big deal. But that said, there is a front lift option, and it certainly helps, because if I didn't have that, I wouldn't make it into my garage. And it's super quick. Not quite GT instantaneous quick, but even in comparison to the 458, which the 458 was relatively fast for a pneumatic system, this thing pops right up and people don't have to wait for you. That was the one thing about the McLaren, which we'll be going back to with the 600 LT. It takes like 15 to 20 seconds, so people are waiting behind you. They're like, what are you doing? Do you not know how to pull into the driveway? I'm like, no, I just don't want to damage my car. That's all. It's a nice piece of carbon fiber, as opposed to this very convenient disposable piece of plastic, which is, God, I love that. Porsche, what a genius idea. I'm very, very careful. I really don't scrape. I don't care. Like, I'm not purposefully scraping at this point, but God forbid it happens, which it is because this car is so low. I did take it in for a service already. They said everything checked out beautifully. It's in good condition. So, yeah, we're all good to go there. Interior-wise, it has the buckets. Now, the buckets are not the most comfortable chair for daily driving, but they really hold you in place. It is a little bit more difficult to get in and out of because the lip of the chair comes higher a lot than the sill right here, whereas in like the GT, for example, the seat is kind of down in the tub of the car, so you can just roll into it, whereas this is kind of like this ledge you have to get over here. So practicality-wise, that is one downside to it. It's a very minor knock, though. As far as the color scheme, this is exactly what I wanted. A lot of them have like solid orange Alcantara back here on the back of the seat and down in the bottom area. I didn't like that. A, it's gonna get dirty. B, I thought it was a little too much Halloween inside of the car. And so I just like having it all black with the contrasting orange stitching. I think that's the perfect way to go with it.
And the seat belt.
And the seat belt, yeah. Just having more of the minor orange accents in the car is a nice way to go. Also, you might get a kick out of the door handle. Door handle is this little piece of fabric. You just pull it out. For weight savings, you know, probably saves like solid pound perhaps, which really helps your 0 to 60 acceleration. Speaking of performance, it's about a 3.4 second 0 to 60, which is right around where the 458 is. Granted, the new Mark IIs are much quicker in the acceleration department, but for the daily driver, it doesn't bother me quite as much. And also, this thing, from the canyon drives I've done, is so capable. I don't even care that the acceleration is a few tenths of a second slower to 60 than the new Mark II. It's just a fun car. I get the 911 thing. I had always seen a million 911s. I hadn't gotten one again because I was waiting on my dad. But there are so many, at least in the LA area, that it didn't seem quite as exciting unless you went into the RS models. But now having one, I feel it. I feel why people like the cars so much. Even though we've got the wing and the stiff suspension, the bucket seat, it is practical. The visibility is fantastic. It's like a very bubbly cabin. I can see all over the place. No bad blind spots. There's really decent storage actually behind me. You can throw pretty big suitcases in there. You can also pop the trunk or the frunk. And there's a fairly decent amount of storage in there. This is a car that you can completely take on a road trip. The GT, on the other hand, you need to have a luggage or follow car for that to happen. And so to have this, much along the lines of the 458, but with even more storage because you have it behind the seats there, it's just like, it really is fairly practical. Another couple of little minor things you might get a kick out of. Logo is a decal for weight savings. Of course, saves probably, I don't know, an ounce, something like that. Also, a decal over here for GT3 RS, because you know, you don't want those things weighing you down. That, combined with the door handles, I mean, you've got to at least save a second on your 0 to 60. Like, these are massive weight savings right there, just massive. Previous owner might have babied the car, at least I hope. The one bit of damage that was existing is a tiny little bit of curb rash right there on the wheel. I did not do that. I'd like to think I'm very good about curb rash, but it was on this side, which means it must have been like a strange left-hand parking job, which I suppose can get you a little bit turned around, because usually on a, you know, right-hand drive country like the US, you're parking on the right side of the road. But you know, I don't know if that'll like impede with turning that wheel black in a nice, pretty fashion. I suppose you could order a new wheel if needed, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll deal with it. I'll chat with whoever might be turning the wheels black and see if that'll present an issue, but that was the only thing that happened from the previous owner. Not me. I am guilt-free. Well, I think that pretty much wraps it up for at least the intro. There will be more videos on this car. We'll do some drives with it. Maybe go into more detail what it's like to actually daily drive one of these beautiful things. But
What about a podcast?
there might be a podcast. It's like at this point I can just give whatever the guest the option. Which car suits your personal feelings? Which car do you more identify with? Is it the GT3 RS? Is it the GT? Is it the 458? You choose. Take your pick. We have 3 different studios to choose from for our podcast. This is one of the possible studios. Who needs a static building when you can move? Anyway, thanks for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed. Stay tuned for more content with it, and we'll wrap it up there. Have a good one.
You don't get me high